what's up everybody? How are you doing? This is Bayo Adio, your favorite Nigerian American vlogger. So if you guys follow my channel, you guys would know that I am a diaspora that is coming back to Nigeria to look for investment opportunities, but also to figure out what type of impact that we can make in this country. And then my primary focus is real estate, agriculture, and technology. So as part of that, but those are the general topics, but there's little sub-facets in between each of those. But and the focus here is for me to figure out what can create economic opportunities for the people locally and what can help develop the economic state of Nigeria, but also figuring out what can help me generate income and kind of help a lot of us that are a little bit younger prepare for retirement. So there's a lot of facets of that. So today I want to focus on a subset of the agriculture investments that I'm making in Nigeria that a lot of you guys have actually also invested in, which is when it's agriculture, there's actually subsets under it. Some people it's the supply chain, some people it's adding value to the product, some people it's providing the produce for the people locally, and another facet of that, which we're going to talk about today, is exporting. As you guys know, Nigeria needs to produce. We do a lot of importing, and we're not doing enough exporting. So that affects a lot of things, the economy, the foreign exchange value, the demand for Naira, and all of that. So today, I brought in one of my friends. His name is Melobi, and he's going to give you guys a full intro today. We'll kind of talk about how to export from Nigeria, but in a way that you can do it from where you're at. So that's kind of the general topic today. So that's my own little intro. So Melobi, take it over, introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, thank you very much, Bayo. So, as you said, my name is Melobi. I was born in Nigeria, lived in the UK for quite a while, and then moved back a couple of years ago. And essentially, I have three main businesses. One is Melobi's Global Services, which is where I export agricultural produce, mainly a food called fonio, from Nigeria to the United Kingdom and looking to expand to other markets. The second is Pan-African Traders, which is essentially a suite of tech products that help enable people to trade within Africa. And then the final one is Afriverse, which is an e-learning marketplace where we have people host their own courses and stuff that we're going to talk about today. So those are the three main projects.
I love it. Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm proud of you. I think I'm very excited when I see other young Nigerians that are living outside of the country come and kind of engage with what's going on here. So when I met you, I was so impressed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, well, let's talk about this. Let's get into it today. So just to give you guys kind of what today is about, it's going to be a question and answer to him. And by the way, me and Melobi and another lady that works with the Pan-African Trade Union and Iviama, we've been actually working on a course for probably the last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a while.
It took a long time just to kind of gather information, a lot of procrastination because we're all busy. But the course is finally ready, and we'll be giving you guys information about that towards the end of this video. But for now, we just want to teach you guys how to generate part-time income as a Nigerian diaspora, exporting from Nigeria. So we're going to start, and we're just going to go with there. By the way, if you guys have any questions, comment underneath this video, and me and Melobi would come back and respond to it. So let's get started. So for me, I'm going to act like you guys, because when I first met him, when we were putting the course together, I was more of like the consumer that's like, okay, these are the things that I would need to know in order for me to get into exporting. So the first question is, what opportunities actually is in exporting from Nigeria?
Wow, that's a great question. So in terms of opportunities, there's opportunities in everything from adding value to what farmers are already doing in Nigeria. So as people probably know, we do produce a lot of crops, but sometimes they don't meet international standards. So by exporting, you're adding value to the local communities by doing due diligence, quality control, etc. You're also adding value to the Nigerian economy, obviously, because you're bringing in dollars to the economy, you're producing more, which will bring more productivity and employment to the country. But most of all, we're talking about you as the audience. So I guess what you can get from it is multiple things. One is that you can be able to make money kind of, I think this word is overused passively, but it kind of is, depending on the business model that you're using. So you can make money whilst you're basically, not doing that much work. In addition to that, you can also, find new partners around the world that you can build long-term relationships with and expand and grow a real big global brand. I know people that are doing very small amounts of stuff, maybe 50 kilograms, that are happy with their business, and there's people doing, tons and container loads of goods. So really, it's a way of doing something for your country and also making money for yourself, really.
Okay, so now walk us through this process. So let's just say that I am a Nigerian in the diaspora, or an African or a black person in the diaspora, and I want to, and I'm like, Melobi, I am sold. How do I start? What steps do I have to go through?
Okay, so this is another great question. So what I first like to think about is the products that the government of the day is really focused on promoting the exports for. Oftentimes when you're going against what the government's focusing on, it can be a bit more of a push, like swimming against the water. So that would really help to sort of start narrowing down what products you want to get into, because really, yes, you do want to find a buyer, but you also want to understand a product that you think is going to do very well. So when you understand the products that the country is looking into, you can also look into particular products that are sort of trending, or if you look at what's going on in the world, we're just coming out of the COVID pandemic. We had a lot of people interested in sort of natural, healthy products. Products like ginger, turmeric, and other healthy products are doing really well, even moringa, baobab. These kind of products do really well in a pandemic situation. So it's important to look at what's going on in the world and sort of take some tidbits from that and see and help it maybe inform on what product you want to focus on. Then after that, really is about a demand side, right? You want to focus on what the buyer wants. Now, depending on where you are, is where your advantage is. So if you're in the diaspora, you have advantages that people on the ground don't have, which is obvious, of course, but it's something that people don't think about. People think, oh, if I'm based in the US or I'm based in the UK, how can I really get into this export business? But to be honest, sometimes you have a lot of advantages that you might not think about. One of them, which is the most important thing, is oftentimes you're closest to the buyer. And so you're able to actually meet with these buyers face to face at networking events, at their offices, cold calling them and then scheduling appointments. You can understand the cultural nuances, say speaking to someone in the UK versus Germany or Italy or the US. It's different sort of ways you communicate with people, and so you can then start bridging these relationships and talking to people, and then understanding from the buyer what products they want to get. Because sometimes we make that mistake of thinking, this is what I want to sell, I think is going to sell amazing over there, yep. But you really got to think buyer first, what do they want? And so by doing a market survey of the country that you're in and speaking to people interpersonally, they will tell you what products they're actually looking for, which would also help you to narrow down the choices. Because I think by speaking with Bayo and other people, a lot of the time it's like, okay, what product do I start with? Yeah. But it's really just think of it like a funnel. The things that I've mentioned just now, looking at what the government's doing, speaking to the buyers, looking at stuff that's going on in the world, you can begin to sort of funnel out the products that might not be of best help. So these are the first few steps that you want to do when you're looking for the right product. And then once you find the right product, then you can look into seeing, okay, how do I get this product from point A to point B, etc., etc.
Cool. I love that breakdown so far. And to kind of add to this, so as we were putting the courses together, I also did a little bit of an experimentation, which was very fascinating. So I looked in my neighborhood when I was in Kansas, and I was trying to figure out what African stores are around me. But then I also actually had to broaden my horizon. I started realizing that even the bigger markets, they're also wanting to tap into the cultural section. So like plantains, sometimes cassava, and I walked into the local Asian markets. So there's actually Indian markets, Asian markets that a lot of us don't think about. And I have a relationship with them because I shop there all the time. So I was asking them, like, what do they need? Who do they get it from? How much do they get it? And honestly, they were open to working with me because I live there, they have a relationship with me, and that's how easy it is to kind of get into the market of exporting. And now you're their point of contact.
Exactly.
So I think that's cool. So you've addressed kind of identifying the demand. You've expressed why it's actually diasporas at an advantage from exporting because you're closest to the buyer. What else did you address? You addressed one more thing.
I can't think of it.
But we'll get back into it. Yeah. Okay, so now my next question is, when I think about this logistically, my next thought is like, okay, fine, I got it. I can secure a buyer, or at least I can do the legwork locally where I'm at. Secondly, I've identified what the need is. So the next question is, by the way, there's kind of two facets to this, which I'm going to address to you. The next question that you're probably thinking is like, sure, I have a buyer, I can secure this, yada, yada, yada. How do I get the product? So walk us through, well, I'm going to talk about the first one. Easy. First process is, I own a farm here, or I know farmer. Actually, let's just say I own a farm. I can export my products there. But there's other models if you don't own a farm. Like you don't even know how to farm, you don't have an agricultural process. I'll have you talk about the other model.
Yes, of course, and well said. So I think a lot of the time people think, oh, like Bayo was saying, I need to have my own farm, I need to be growing these crops in order to get into the game. But really what you can do is you can leverage with other people. And actually what that does is that reduces your risk. So you can find suppliers of particular products that already have experience exporting, and then by working with them, not only do you reduce the risk, but you're actually learning as you're going along, which is the way I started. So the way I started exporting the Fonio is that I went to Nigeria. I was still working in the UK. I took a couple of weeks holiday, and then I went to the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. And there's other there's a Chamber of Commerce, there's other organizations, but the NEPC is the main one for exports. And so you can ask them and say, okay, I'm looking to get into this product. Can you introduce me to farmers? Can you introduce me to exporters or people that sell this product so that I can basically either buy it from them and then sell it to the buyer, or the model which I believe Bayo might be alluding to is being more of a import-export broker. And the way that works is that, say for example, Bayo is a buyer of a product and there's a seller. Myself, I can just tell the seller that, look, I'm going to find you buyers like Bayo, and what we're going to do is once the good arrives in Bayo's hands, you just give me a cut. Maybe anything that from as low as 2% to 5% to 10%. You negotiate that with the supplier. But the whole idea is that you're just being a connector. You're networking. Your job is to do the sales. Your job is to go to networking events like trade fairs. Go to online websites where you can find buyers of goods, send emails, do calls, and all these kinds of things. Find the buyer, which is arguably one of the most important parts, and then go back to that supplier and say, hey, I've got this buyer. He's ready to buy your product. For example, you might send a sample just so that the buyer is happy, and then once you make that connection, you can take a percentage normally from the supplier, but sometimes you can take a percentage from the buyer as well. Yep. So it depends on who you want to have that relationship with. Some people even get percentage from both parties. So It depends on how you want to organize that. So that's really, and for me, it might be difficult in some ways because it's really a sales play. If your forte is calling people, networking, speaking, building relationships with people, I definitely recommend this business model, but it might not be for everyone. But I definitely think it's a good way to start because you're learning using someone else's product. You can see what all the risks are by just being in the middle, and that's one way that I recommend people start. And then eventually you can do what is called backward integration. So you can start off being the broker. Maybe next time you might buy the product and sell it, or maybe next time you might start doing some processing and exporting, and then after that you get your own farm. So you slowly go backward into supply chain all the way down to the farm, but taking your time and learning as you go along. So that's one way to do it.
I love that. I gotta like wrap up everything that he said. So I love everything that he brought up. So essentially, you guys can go passively all the way to being involved in a supply chain system. So the first step is you're just a broker. You're finding the buyer and you're finding the supplier, and then you're in the middle, and you're making consistent recurring passive income.
Yeah. Every
time they're sending products to each other forever or for as long as possible, you're always getting a cut every time. So that's like very, very passive. And then another step is to actually add value to the product. So like, for example, I was reading something like, let's just say like cassava, for example. I'm just using like a random example. Actually, no, let me use something else. Let me just say sunflowers or something like that. No, sunflower doesn't grow here. Let me use another. Sesame seeds. Let me just say sesame seeds, for example. You know a farmer that grows it, but then you bought this machine or whatever that can create sesame seed oil. Then now you can now export sesame seed oil, and you don't actually have to do the farmer. So you can also do that. Or you can work directly with the farmer, buy their products, and then export it.
Exactly.
So those are three models?
Exactly. Okay. And I'm just going to emphasize on what you said with the passive thing, because people, a lot of the time, they haven't heard of this, but like Bayo said, as long as that contract exists, obviously you want to, if you want to get a lawyer to make sure it's tight enough, but as long as that contract exists, and you have an agreement where you say, okay, maybe I get 5% or 10 cents on each kilogram that's being shipped, you're just going to be making money, and then you can look to the next client and close that deal, and you can just keep finding more and more and more, and then eventually it's like kind of real estate, where you're just sitting down and money's coming in.
So how does the money actually does the money go through the broker to the direct person, so you can always track that flow?
That's a great question. So it depends on how you want to do it. If you can build a good relationship with the supplier, and if it's a supplier that's I wouldn't say well known, but has a good reputation, the normal way to do it is the buyer pays the seller or the supplier, but you have a contract with the supplier, and it's a combination of the legal side of things and building a trust and a relationship with that supplier. So by having that contract, they're bound to actually give you money, and if they circumvent that, then you can have any cases or whatever you want to do legally. So yeah, normally it's the buyer pays the seller, and then the seller gives you the commission. But if you don't trust things or whatever, you can incorporate a company, say in the actual country where the buyer is, which is what I'm doing with my product right now. So what I did is, I have buyers in the UK. I registered a company in the UK, so the buyer pays my company in the UK, and my company in the UK then buys a product from Nigeria. And the good thing about that for the buyer is they don't have to send money to Naira or change it or have any foreign exchange issues. They just pay dollar to dollar, pound to pound. So that's one way to do it.
I love that. I think that's one of the benefits in the diaspora is you can leverage the infrastructure and where you're at to kind of do the transactions with them. And then you, knowing the Nigerian system, can maneuver all of that. Rather than them trying to figure out which is a headache. Okay, all right, that's cool. So we've talked a lot about a lot of things. By the way, guys, I'm going to address some of the questions that you guys are probably thinking at this point, where you're like, holy crap, that's a whole bunch of stuff. But everything that I do, best guaranteed that my job is to make that process as easy as possible for the diaspora. So we're going to talk about different options at the end. So lastly, I want to talk about logistics. So when somebody finds a supplier or whatever, give me like a rundown roughly of how to successfully get the product from the supplier to the buyer.
Yeah, this is a great question. To be honest,
actually, let me even add to that. As a diaspora, so this person that is watching is not physically in Nigeria.
Okay.
Actually, give me both of them. So like somebody that's here and somebody that wants to do it from afar.
Okay, great question. So the simplest way to just say it is find a freight forwarder. Now, a freight forwarder is just essentially a company that will handle your logistics, including any shipping things like clearance or duty, any of that, not fun sounding stuff. They will handle, moving the goods from point A to point B, everything involved. So then the question is, okay, how do you find a good freight forwarder? So, it's okay. I don't want to say it's a difficult thing, but if you're in the diaspora, it's easier to find a good quality freight forwarder. In Nigeria, it's kind of very saturated, and there's loads of small freight forwarders. There's like 2 people in an office, so it's hard to find a really good quality one. But what I would suggest is maybe you could reach out to myself or Bayo. Depending on where you are, we can help you, find the right freight forwarder. But what I would add to that is just, check their history, speak to other, if you know other people that export or import, ask them for recommendations. Referrals are really the best way to vet. So if you're in the diaspora, you can get a freight forwarder in your country. So if you're in the US, you can find a freight forwarder in the US that can sort of bring the goods in. Or you can try and find one in Nigeria. But what I recommend is work with a freight forwarder that's where you're at, because it's easier to call them, any issues, no time difference, just simple as that. But yeah, there's no simple way around it, but the freight forwarder will handle all of that.
Okay, who handles the packaging? Is it typically, who handles the packaging?
Yeah, great question. So the packaging is handled by the suppliers.
Okay.
So whoever that supplier is, whether they're a farmer, an exporter, whatever they are, they will package it into a way that they see fit, which is a good question actually, because sometimes they might pack it in like small boxes, like maybe 10 or 20 boxes, but then the freight forwarder, right, once the goods get from the warehouse or the shop of whoever is the supplier, and it gets to the freight forwarder's warehouse, they then do what's called consolidation, which is just putting all those boxes into one big box. So when the goods get from point A to point B, they are, I guess the reason why they do it is just so that it can fit better and not waste so much space, and it's done as efficiently as possible. So yes, the supplier will do their sort of packaging, but the freight forwarder will add more value by doing more packaging, and they might charge you a little bit for that, but it's necessary.
Okay, all right, that's so cool. All right, so now my last question is, I want to know the obstacles. So like, do you need any permits, certifications, approval, like customs? What is required in order to export?
I
know bureaucracy is always like the biggest challenge in Nigeria.
So what the thing is, okay, if you're sending stuff by air, it tends to be a bit more straightforward. But when you send stuff by sea, then it can have more complex. It can be a bit more complex. So the main things to be aware of, if you're just sending processed or products that haven't been added value to, so say for example, if you're just sending shea butter in just unbranded containers or boxes, you don't need a NAFDAC, and NAFDAC is the Nigerian equivalent of the FDA. So in Nigeria, you need a NAFDAC certificate to be able to, sell goods in supermarkets and all these kinds of things. So if it's an unbranded agricultural or textile product, or if it's not retail, then you don't need a NAFDAC. But if it is branded, so if I take that same shea butter and I package it and I say Bayo's shea butter, you might have to get a NAFDAC. So be aware of that. And a NAFDAC, there's a whole process to getting a NAFDAC number. But it's easier when you're in Nigeria, but you can still do it remotely. In addition to that, sorry, I forgot the question.
Yeah. It's mainly like what is required in order to export. Paperwork-wise.
Paperwork. So and then also you need to register with an NEPC, which is the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, and they essentially are the ones that manage everything export. So they will also tell you of any extra documentation that you might need, but the certificate is about 12,000 naira. Luckily nowadays you can do it online. When I first started, you couldn't do it. So yeah, you can do that on their website, and you can register online. You probably will need to get an export certificate. You need to get your company registered in Nigeria, and you probably need to get an export certificate if you are the exporter. But like I said, you can be the broker, you can buy the goods, you don't have to be doing any of that. So the exporter will have all that documentation. So it depends on really how much skin in the game you have, which is what will determine if you really need to get all these certifications. If you're just in the middle, or if you're just importing, then you have to deal with the import things on the buyer side or the diaspora side of things.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So now, guys, I don't want this video to be a long video. So here is what I'm going to tell you guys. So we have been working collectively on this course together. If you guys want like a step 1 to like 10 of every single detail of how to go about this, it's in the course. I'll actually add the link below if you guys are interested. Check it out. How much is it now?
It's $199, so it's $199.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for the amount of value that we put in there, we were not even sure to bring it that low, but I think it's also a thing of actually adding value to our people and making it easier for them. So, you know, it's $199 and it's a lifetime access, meaning that as things go on, we'll add you to our mailing list, and if we add any information, let's say there's a policy change or we add a new information to the course, you will always have access to that. So it's lifetime access.
I love that. So let's kind of tell them a little bit about what's in the course. Do you remember the steps? Actually, I have some notes here. See what you can bring up and let's remember. I wrote down some notes. So in the course, guys, what's included is, oh, it's on my phone. So let me tell you guys what's included in the course. Number 1 is to talk about the opportunities that exist. The other one is to talk about what crops are the best crops to export, to focus on. But also, we also go deeper into the course on how to find reputable suppliers and also how to find buyers. There's like a lot more detail there. We talk about how to get the certifications that you need, what organizations is involved, and we talked about this different business models in detail. Like if you just want to be a broker, or if you want to get deeper into the supply chain, or maybe you don't even want to, maybe you only want to export products like shea butter that's already packaged that you want to sell on Amazon directly. There's like so many different things that you can do. And then we talk a lot about the logistics, and we talk a lot about how government interventions and how you can align with the government and all of that stuff. So those are all what the course is in. So I think it's highly, highly valuable. When I go through it, I'm like, wow, this is gold. This is amazing. So this is a way that you guys can get into the investment opportunities that exist in Nigeria or in Africa in general. So I do want to talk about one more thing now, and I want you to talk a little bit more about this. So for me, when I met Melobi and we were going through this course, I was also like, for me, I'm like, ugh, this is like so much stuff to do, although the like opportunity is great. So I think after talking to Melobi, he actually started a consultancy kind of business where like if you guys want to do it, he can handle all of these processes for you. Your specific role would be to find a buyer. And then once you find a buyer, you can work with him and he can literally handle everything from the supplier to the logistics to shipping to everything. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's a great point actually. So yeah, what we found is that a lot of people, you know, yes, they want to learn this, they want to get their hands dirty, but it is a lot of information. And you know, sometimes if you're a little bit busy or you just have other things you're good, you know, you don't want to specialize in this, it might take a bit more effort and time and patience. So what we're offering, like Bayo says, is that we can handle everything for you. So finding the suppliers on the ground, meeting with them, testing their product, quality control, all the way to logistics, getting it to the final destination. And like Bayo said, if you can find the buyer that is serious and they can provide what they need, and they can provide, you know, any kind of purchase order or letter of intent. There's different kind of ways they can show interest. Yeah, we can do all the legwork for you, and I think it's a great offer, and it's really a testament to just listening to what people want and listening to what their needs are and their challenges are. So I think it's a great offer, and I think that, you know, a lot of people can benefit from this.
I think so too. So I think part of what I'm trying to offer the people that are watching from abroad is that we're here on the ground, I'm trying to have us do as much legwork as possible so it's easier for you guys to invest in Nigeria and just kind of be a part of this change and growth that we all seek. So I really appreciate that you stepped up to create that. So now you guys have two options. You want to do it yourself. There's a course that laid out every single thing that you need to do. I mean, like, there's websites of where you can find buyers in your country, and that website can show you exactly what this buyer wants, what quantity they want. Like, literally, all you have to do is click on the link and contact the buyer, and then talk to us saying, hey, I have a buyer in UK or USA that wants cocoa, and then he looks for a cocoa. I mean, there's so much detail. There's also websites and links for you to directly find reputable suppliers, right? In Nigeria, and then you can contact them, do research. So literally, if you want to do it yourself, or you just kind of want to understand the process, sign up for the course. It's $199 for now. And if you want like a do it for me option, then you can reach out to Melobi. So I'll send both of those links. I'll post both of those links in the description. Honestly, ideally, I would recommend that you do, because with businesses, I've learned a few things. Even if you hire Melobi directly, it's still important that you know the process. So that way you understand like what he's saying, what he means. So regardless, I still think you need to get the course just so you can understand the process. So yeah, that is kind of, anything else that you want to add to it?
Just another free tip. So people that are new to exporting, start with non-perishable goods. I know a lot of people that have got burnt trying to do perishable stuff like yam and stuff like that. And you know, these are the little tips that we throw in the course. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It just came to my mind. I wanted to share that with you.
think that's a good tip. And I was reading an article that I'm actually gonna talk about in this video. It talked about like how exporting is going to grow significantly in like emerging markets. I think India, China, Indonesia, and like Nigeria is like one of those emerging markets that they're saying exporting is going to grow crazy. And I think the government is aware of this. That's why a lot of them are pushing agriculture a lot. I think the demand for petroleum and oil revenue is slowly diminishing drastically. And so I think now we have to brainstorm different ways to earn exporting. And I think, to me, it's like a no-brainer. I mean, I don't even know why they're just thinking of this. This is why, guys, I'm in Ogun State constantly. The amount of arable land that we have here, it's ridiculous. Like when I drive to Ogun State and I see all of this land, like, it's just empty.
Crazy, and no one's doing anything.
Nobody's doing anything with it. It blows my mind. And outside of international exports, even locally, there's a lot of people that are hungry. So for me, I'm still trying to make sense of it. And food cost is going high and high and high. So I think these are, like, agriculture is one of those things that in any of the supply chain processes would be what can help Nigeria grow economically. 100%. But we need people on ground. And also, the people that are in diaspora, if you cannot physically be on ground, you can also make an impact by investing financially. That's like, your investing would help the people on ground to be able to make moves. And the idea is with trust. So for me, I'm always trying to figure out who's a trustworthy person, who has been doing this, who's experienced. So that's why I brought Melobi on the channel. So yeah, so if you guys are interested in supporting us, supporting this cause, supporting him, get the course, share this video, share the course with anyone that you know. You never know who needs this, and then we are trying to make an impact in our own little small way to do this. So there's one more thing that I want to bring up, and I don't know how much you are about this. One thing that sparked my interest is this African trade union. Tell me a little bit about this so people know what that is.
Yes, so at the beginning of this year, actually, the African Continental Free Trade area, I believe, was initiated. And the whole idea is so that the entire continent is just one big free trade zone per se. And so in the long term, the effects of this is going to be lower barriers to trade. So that, little to no tariffs, which means no extra costs when moving goods between African countries. There's also going to be less customs hassles, and because sometimes the barrier to trading within Africa is just at the ports or at the borders where people just take money and all that. So there's actually specific initiatives that are being created to reduce all of these things. So over the next couple of years, you're going to be seeing a lot more trade going on within Africa.
That's exciting.
And they just completed an event in Durban, South Africa, which was the Intra-Africa Trade Fair. There was hundreds and hundreds of people, billions of dollars being exchanged. And so we can definitely see that, the trade within Africa is going to increase. At the moment, it's at about 16% compared to Europe, which is about 69%. So we have a way to go, but the way we can enjoy exponential growth in Africa is if we keep trading with each other. Because we can also trade in value-added products like cars, anything that's value-added, logistics, also in sort of cosmetics and textiles, and DRC imports a lot of Nigerian textiles. People don't even know that. So I think it has a lot of potential for.
I think this is cool. I wanted to bring this up because some of you guys might be living in other African countries. You can also participate in this because of this trade going on within Africa. Well, cool. If you guys have any questions, comment underneath this video. The course is $199 for now. I would say like in a week, we're going to launch this for the next week, and after a week we'll go up to $297. So if you guys are interested, I'll put the link in the video. And also if you have any questions, comment underneath this video. Thank you so much for coming to do this.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
I really appreciate this. And by the way, we've conversated on Zoom many times, on the phone. This is actually my first time
in person
meeting him in person.
This guy's tall.
So this is cool. And lastly, guys, remember, it's your time to rise and let your light shine. Peace.